I saw it kind of Good morning and welcome to BFM's Morning Headlines. I'm Sharaad Kuttan and I look at the newspapers for you. I'm going to start with the NST. It says they worry about armed sect. This is just part of several days of continuing coverage on the Jayat murder. That is the Jabatan Agama Islam chief of enforcement who was gunned down. Now, as the stories come up, there's an agenda that's emerging. One coming from, I think, stories in the inside papers that suggest that there is resistance to religious policing, that enforcement officers often are subjected to threats. This time, of course, the murder is somewhat rare, but it still kind of signals disquiet, perhaps in the Muslim community, about religious policing. Now, the other thing, of course, is the emerging agenda around that. And Sinar Harian tells you exactly what that agenda is. It is Ustaz minta pistol, which is now a call, and this is the minister in the Prime Minister's office who says that perhaps religious enforcement officers should be given guns. Now, if that's not worrying, I don't know what is. Many of the newspapers have the photo fit of the man who was allegedly involved in the shooting. Now, also to note, and I'll come back to the Straits Times, things that the Malaysian newspapers are doing, some of them at least, which is kind of confusing the public. Now, it says that they're armed sects, when in fact there are no armed sects, and they say it exactly in this first paragraph. There have been or are no armed sects. The other thing, of course, is that they're saying here that the police have not linked the murder to any deviant teachings, but they do not rule out the possible involvement of the outlawed Tuhan Harun sect. We talked about this Tuhan Harun sect, and there are more stories on that. They're a bit weird, but all the same, the question is, how did they become outlawed? And I think that's a word that's used in ill-disciplined fashion. It's just a nice word there, but it doesn't in fact reflect the legal status of the group. So, got to watch out for these media people. Sometimes they're a bit lax in their use of words. At any rate, again, the photo fit, and this is Berita Harian. Now, what's very interesting, there's a word here. This is a description of the man. He's 55. He's about 170 centimeters tall. He's apparently Malay, and more importantly, his skin color, sawo matang. Now, sawo matang is the word for the day, and it means basically somebody whose complexion is sort of dark but a reddish undertone. The Malay language has a lot of these very interesting words to describe color of skin, complexion. All of them very, I think, generally are very positive. So I'm hitam manis. So the Malay male has those three. Malaysia's three most wanted. That is the man in the Jayat murder. That is the man in the Ambank robbery murder. That's the man in the kidnapping, or suspected but not charged and convicted of those crimes. And just for symmetry, they have this really odd story about three miracles. You see, three most wanted. I don't know about symmetry. At any rate, the Sun has yet again the vexing question of English in the national curriculum. This really is a quote from the former Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir. He's saying that joblessness among graduates is a function of their inability or their lack of grasp of the English language. That may be true, but the question is, why does the media always go to politicians to lead the debate on language? I think more educationists should be out there. I also think that perhaps we should be bolstering English teaching as part of the English curriculum rather than going to science and maths as a surrogate or a sneaky way of getting more English teaching in schools. That's my personal opinion. Now, what's yours? Tell us what you think. The Star has a story on the loss of water wastage, because we have had a lot of wastage that the Auditor General highlighted in his report recently. This is the other part of wastage in Malaysia, infrastructure that is falling apart, and in this case water. And we've had this story year in, year out. nice little numbers here, 2 trillion, if anybody can imagine that. And if you can't, the Star helps you by telling you it's equivalent of 790,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. What that means, I don't know. Ustaz, Malaysia has a story on a scheme to help new homeowners. Now, I've been alerted to the fact that there was a disturbing, according to a group called Sharaad, that's a kind of left-of-center organization, saying that ministers come out to say that individuals who already own a home can in fact apply to the scheme as well. Now, how that squares with the objectives of the scheme, it's called PRIMA, or Project Perumahan Rakyat Satu Malaysia, I don't know, but perhaps the goalposts are shifting in the PRIMA scheme, as it always happens in Malaysia. Okay, shifting goalposts. Here we have much more the same. Again, domestic violence on Harian Metro, and always a story about Kalwat, if it's possible, have a Kalwat story. That's close proximity, which is a crime apparently. There's always a kind of slightly prurient interest in the individuals who have been caught. They are claiming trial. You might be interested in the upcoming Past Muktamar. I would suggest that you podcast our current affairs show. Go to bfm.my and you can podcast that. That came out this morning. Also, if you're interested, things to note within the newspapers: a growing concern about Malaysia's appearance at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting that's happening on the 15th. Calls for the Prime Minister not to go along with Canada and India, who boycotted the proceedings. I did a show very recently on that and the problems of the Sri Lankan government, especially with regard to the war crimes issue. So you can podcast that too. And finally, Bersih, the campaign for free and fair elections, has a new head. It's Maria Chin Abdullah. She has been there for a long time, and now she assumes the position that was once held by Ambiga Srinivasan and A. Samad Syed. That's all I have for you this morning. You've been watching BFM's Morning Headlines with me, Sharaad Kuttan, BFM 89.9.